So welcome everybody to today's webinar, which is targeted at our parent carer community. And we're going to be looking at today Invision360's new software called VITA, which, as titled on screen, is about using generative AI to draft high quality and child-centered EHCPs. So today's a little bit about us sharing the progress and the updates on what's happening behind the scenes. This is something that's still very much in the pilot phase, but we really wanted to get some messaging out and get some updates out to the parent care community during this process. Okay, so the agenda for the next hour is up on screen. Lydia, if it doesn't follow for whatever reason, do give me a shout out. But you'll see on there, we've got a number of items. They're all led by different members of the Invision360 team. So myself, Phil Stock, I'll be kicking us off with the intro, and then I'll be handing over to my colleagues, and they will introduce themselves as they get to their item. So you'll see there, towards the end of the session, we've got a Q&A component, question and answer. Throughout today's session, if you think of any questions, please do drop them in the chat. And what we'll see is we'll see those questions sort of building up and developing as the session goes on. If somebody else poses a question you think, I'd like to hear the response to that, give it a thumbs up. And then what we can do is we can start prioritizing the questions. Those with more thumbs up, we know are higher priority, and we can focus on them when we get to that Q&A. Later in the session, there's going to be an interactive workshop. And with that, there will be an opportunity to anonymously share or vote or scale using either your laptop or a phone. We'll explain how later, and you can see those results coming through live. So that'll be the interactive session towards the end. But I'm going to kick us off with an intro to who we are at Invision360 and what is it when we're talking about VITA. Okay, so Invision360 is an organization I set up around 5 years ago. I'd worked in local authority as an educational psychologist. I'd had a background as a teacher. My brother has complex SEND and went through the specialist school system. And so after working in local authority for a number of years, I felt there was potentially a solution or some solutions to try and improve the quality of education, health and care plans. And with that, Invision360 was conceived. We're now in a position that we have 60 local authorities in England who all commission our education, health and care plan audit tool. And that's very, very much to do with quality and improving quality. It's very much separate to VITA, which I'll explain in a minute. It's our existing offer and what we currently do. You'll see the type of things we provide modules on: education, health and care plans, annual reviews, personal educational plans, education psychology advice. These are what are called audit or QA tools. They're not AI. These are things that we built over time that we have implemented in, like I say, up to 60 local authorities that help drive improvement and help and drive higher quality. You'll see on the left-hand side, the bottom left of this screen, it says new. This is where we're at today, this VITA. Because we've worked in the space of QA of EHCPs in the SEND sector for the last 5 years, we're very aware that the quality is not what it should be. Plans are inconsistent and they lack quality. And working with numerous local authorities and their communities, we realize there needs to be some processes or some supportive solutions to try and do that. And what we've developed in VITA, or develop what we continue to develop, with an idea that we'll launch this in May this year, is something that's really going to keep the essence of a personalized, child-centered EHCP, but with higher quality plans. From what we've done historically, we've got really good evidence of that it's driving improvement. We want further improvement, but we know we're making an impact, a positive impact. And the modules we've designed so far, in terms of those that are already out in the community last number of years, they include the parent carer community. They're designed that not only the local authorities QA, but parent and carers can be part of that QA process. Also, they develop experiential links. And what we mean by that is feedback links for parent and carers, children, young people, on their experiences of their EHCP, of their annual review meeting, of their education psychology advice. So we really are trying to capture as much information as we possibly can to drive that improvement. bringing us on to VITA. So this is our new software, and this is with the generative AI. And the term AI means lots of different things to lots of different people, and it's full of myths and can create apprehensions. So we're going to be really clear on how we're using AI within VITA to produce EHCPs. So the first thing in terms of VITA, how it works is that every child that goes through an education, health and care plan assessment will continue to be assessed exactly as they currently are by the local authority professionals and expertise and those that parents or carers may commission. We're talking about therapists, clinicians, educational psychologists, teachers. Critically, obviously, parent care information that supports that assessment and child and young person's voice. That all will happen exactly as it does now. So that family-centered, person-centered assessment process doesn't change. What currently happens is all of that information is then fed into a local authority, and a professional will then read all of those different assessments, and then they will try and collate and thread them through into an education, health and care plan. And what we're seeing is that the plans aren't as strong as they potentially could be. Where generative AI is really well placed is when all those assessments are fed into a local authority, they can be dropped in, uploaded to VITA, and VITA will provide information in minutes where it will have synergized all of that information into a first iteration of some information in an EHCP template. And what that allows us to do, it's really important that it doesn't remove the human element. This is the local authority individual is still then responsible. We'll read through every section, maybe edit, refine, but has to improve every section before then that plan is put into what we call a draft EHCP, and then a co-produced meeting with parents and carers and other professionals to finalize that EHCP. So we're doing one very bespoke, specific task with generative AI, which is really well placed to do, and that is the ability to collate, review, and synthesize all of the corresponding assessments into a really strong, comprehensive, coherent EHCP. That then saves significant time for a local authority professional who would be required to do that task, read them all, etc. And with that additional time that VITA saves, we're then advocating and promoting more co-production, more co-produced meetings with families at the draft EHCP before it's then finalized. So the plan is a really accurate, up-to-date, insightful document that captures who the child really is, what their aspirations are, their needs, and the provision required to meet those needs effectively. So that is, in an essence, VITA, about higher quality plans, keeping child-centered, person-centered central to it. And what VITA will also do, it will also do some quality assurance, i.e. it will signpost how to improve education, health and care plans. So whatever is produced, it will identify the strengths and how it could be improved further. And our pilot process is now live. We're live in a large number of local authorities who are currently testing VITA and are working with us to help shape it. And as part of that, we're working with parent carer forums. We've got focus groups and youth forums, and we're doing a wealth of work. The last thing I'll say before I pass on our webpage, Invision360.com, if you go to the VITA section, there is a parent guide on there. That'll be dropped into the chat. It hasn't already been. And that guide has all of what we call our FAQs, frequently asked questions, and gives you lots of information. Okay. We've got a strong advisory board that scrutinize everything we do. You can see the level of people in that we've got there. We've got Tina, who's on our call today, who's co-chair, who was previously co-chair of the National Parent Carer Forum. We've got directors of education, directors of children's services, and so forth. Now it's time to see VITA in action. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to one of my colleagues, Alice, who's going to show us a little bit about VITA. So I'm going to stop sharing here.
Perfect. Thank you. And before I share my screen and I'll show you exactly how VITA currently looks, I wanted to introduce myself. So I'm Alice Holden. I'm Customer Success Lead at Invision, and my main role is to support local authorities for them to then support children and young people and increase that quality. And that's making sure we're getting feedback and making sure that our systems can be used as easily and quickly as possible so they get that time back to then focus on the personalized quality element. So I'm doing a lot of the onboarding and training. And with VITA, what I'm about to show you is definitely in those early stages, what I want you to think about is the concept that you'll see. So the main features, the main things that are possible. And where we're currently piloting VITA, we've got so much feedback on ways to make it easier and quicker for LAs to use. And that's what we're going through right now. So again, they can save as much time as possible to get to that point of then increasing personalization and quality in that sense. So just keep the concept in mind, and there's lots of nice visuals we're currently starting to update with local authorities. My share screen. Can you guys see my screen? Yeah.
Yes, we can.
And this is dummy data as well, so don't worry too much about the information you see itself, but more kind of what VITA is doing. So when people a caseworker comes into the system and it's got a very secure login with 2 steps, so the data is safe. No one else can access it other than the person who's assigned this plan. They'll have a list of all their plans here that they've started to create. But going into the more important part, the creating a new plan, you'll start to see a pathway, which is the steps of what they're taking to create this plan within VITA. So first of all, they'll put the identification bits in of the child and young person's case file ID. It will auto assign to them, and they'll go next to where you'll then start to see that they'll add advice. It will use that advice to then create the plan. And as what was mentioned, the main part of VITA is that it will use that advice to pull information and put it in the places it's meant to be. It's not making up information. It's saving that copy and pasting time so they can then focus more time on the quality aspect as opposed to kind of the admin work. And that's the main thing here with VITA. So when you go to the upload contributions, and I am just toggling across here, this is where, and this is something that we've made earlier kind of situation, this is where the real starting point is, where caseworkers will start, or the caseworker for this plan will start to upload the advice that VITA will then use. As you can see here, there's lots of different advice types. I'm not sure, can you see the drop down on Zoom, Kaylin?
We can, yeah.
Oh, lovely. So what you'll see here is a drop down of all the different advice types that can be added. And this can also be used as a way to remind a caseworker of the advice that should be here, or all the different types that can be here. So they'll start to upload different types. If a document's not possible, they'll upload free text as well. So they can take free text from written documents and different things, and they can enter that in here as well. And they'll start to see that all below, and they can continue doing that over a period of time, not necessarily in one day, but as and when this comes in. We are supporting more formats. So at the moment, it's not as much, but the idea is we'll support voice notes and more things to make it as accessible and flexible as possible when we get views from parents, children, young people.
Cool. Alice, let me just add one tiny thing in there as well. So hi, everyone. I'm Kaylin. I'm the product lead at Invision360. This means that my role is to kind of work with local authorities and work with all of our different kind of community partners to figure out what a good product is to build, and then to work with our engineering and our data science teams to make that get built. Part of that journey is what you're seeing in front of you today. The only thing I wanted to add on to this is one thing we're also exploring is whether or not documents could be uploaded, particularly from parents or carers, in other languages. So one of the benefits of kind of large language models and AI is that out of the box, they can be quite good at just like easily reading other languages. And we know that one challenge that local authorities have is if they're in an area with where English as an additional language is quite a high proportion of the population, they would need to kind of get translators in to give that information the same level of kind of engagement in the process. So that's also just something that we're starting to think about and starting to hear about with local authorities as well.
Thank you, Kaylin. Perfect. So once we have all our advice here and that's added to, the next part of VITA is the magic, where it's then creating the plan. And as said before, this is a first draft plan. what it's doing is pulling that information from all the advice into the various sections you'll see. So what you're seeing here is not the template look that you'd be used to seeing. It's kind of putting it in different sections as like a building block in this current format, but this will then go on to a template that you're used to seeing in the right sections. For this part in VITA, the caseworker will take full ownership of all the content that's been pulled through. They will have the ability to approve all of the different bits of information here. If they don't, they won't be able to download it. So it does prompt them to make sure they've checked and approved everything, and they can start to see if it's missing anything, if there's something in the right way. And this is where they can start editing as well to make sure that it has personalized language, and they can focus more time on that where it's already pulled that information in and into the right places. It won't make things up, so it will leave things blank or unknown if it's not there. So it's not creating fake information. Caitlin, did you want to add anything or start to go through any of the sections specifically?
No, I think you've covered that part very nicely. I guess one thing that's just helpful to provide a bit of extra background on is that we are using a large language model, which is a type of AI that is good at understanding written language, essentially. So it's just very good at that. If you've used ChatGPT, it's the same sort of thing. But what we've done with ours is it's entirely kind of like in-house. Essentially, it's the same version that's been pre-trained on a lot of data on the internet, so none of your children and young people's data will be going into that to make that better at any point. And we don't actually share data outside of just within our kind of infrastructure that we've built in-house. So there's nothing that could be going to a third party. And there's nothing that could potentially be used for any other purpose at any point in the future. So that's kind of a little bit of background on the AI model that we're using, and kind of some of the safeguards that we put around that a little bit as well. And then what that model does is it kind of just looks at the information in those underlying documents. So the same professional reports that a caseworker would be looking at, or parent-carer contributions, or child or young person documents or kind of written inputs as well. And we'll be pulling out the relevant information and kind of putting them into the relevant sections of here as well. Some of the things we're looking at building upon this, so you can't see it here, they're things we're kind of building in the background, and we're still kind of working with local authorities on what they would look like, are things like better being able to source the information. So if you're a caseworker would want to be able to kind of cross-check the information, so not just take exactly what the product is telling them is the answer, but they'd want an easy way of going back to those source documents and having a look at it and making sure that they are comfortable that the model has pulled out the right information. So that's something that we're building at the moment, and it will make it much easier for a caseworker to do that level of cross-checking and validation of the output. Some of the other things that we are starting to do, so in section B, which obviously is special educational needs, we are going to start providing ways of giving suggestions for ways to make those needs a little bit clearer and a little bit better articulated, because sometimes we've seen that when needs can be pulled through, they don't necessarily always provide that need in a clearly defined way in terms of the barrier to learning and the impact on that child's learning and development. So there's little things we're trying to do within this product based on our conversations with local authorities to just constantly kind of make the quality of those things a little bit better, so that it's really clear for the parent and carer, but for anyone supporting that child or young person, whether that's in the school, a teaching assistant, or anybody. So those are some of the things that we're trying to do as we work through these. I think that's probably everything. You can keep going, Alice.
Thank you. And yeah, I just wanted to add, in terms of what you can see here, they have full ability to add needs, edit any of the information that you see here, even change the format, remove things. So they have complete control over the final kind of first draft of this plan that then gets downloaded at the end. And as I said before, we're at the early stages, so some of this stuff still needs improving, and we're going to update stuff, but the concept of what you're seeing here that VITA can do and provide is the main thing, and where we're wanting to get to, and make this as useful as possible for all the LAs. Cool. Okay, so obviously everything's been plugged into these bits here, which would then end up in the right places on the end template. But the next important, exciting part is the quality review. So where we first have this part that really helps to save time to get the bits and pieces in the right places and select the relevant things. The second important part is the quality review. And that's a separate AI model that then looks at the overall plan to pick out strengths and improvements. So as well as helping to save time, it will help on pointing out the quality of the plan. And this can be used to suggest improvements on how the plan's written, but also the advice. So if you start to see across multiple plans that there's a piece of advice that's missing and that's kind of been highlighted as an improvement, then the LA can start to look at their overall kind of process, not just for this plan, but for all plans. There might be a running theme with something that's missing that needs improving. So it's to really help to improve quality as well as to save time with this separate model that is a separate one because it's doing something slightly different and it's removing any bias of the same AI quality reviewing itself. So we've got a separate one to do that second kind of check there. Caitlin, did you want to say anything extra for this?
I think you've covered it all very well, Alice.
Okay, lovely. So this is another point where we're trying to provide something helpful to really push that quality as well as giving more time for the personalization element piece. And then to finish it up, what they'll have eventually is a preview here of how it will then all look on their template, on an LA's template. And by clicking the download button currently in our current system, this would be a Word document, but just to give you an example, it wouldn't be a PDF like this one, it's a Word document, but just to show you, it will end up looking more like what you're used to on an actual kind of template. And again, this is editable Word document. It's not necessarily the final point. This is where they can also continue personalizing, adding the child's image as well to it, and anything else. But it gives them a really good head start to then continue improving and updating this EHCP. And I think that is the end of the demonstration. I will stop sharing. Oh, how do I stop sharing? There we go.
I should be able to take over sharing. If I come back to... Okay, Lydia, can you see my screen share?
Good.
Okay, Caitlin, I'm going to hand over to you now for status and key updates.
Yep, cool. Thanks, Phil. So if you want to go on to the next slide. So mine will be short and sweet because Alice already talked through a lot of the detail of the actual product itself. But as you can see, we are bringing people in and bringing different communities in really early on in this process. We know it's in development. We know there's a lot more work to be done, but we're really excited by the potential that this has to improve service delivery for children and young people with SEND. We are, as Phil mentioned, currently developing this in collaboration with local authorities and various different groups of professionals. So at the moment, many local authorities are starting to test this out. They're looking at what the initial output looks like. And we are doing a really large in-house task of actually validating and quality assuring that content ourselves, as well as the local authorities doing that. So we're getting kind of two different viewpoints on how well is this product actually working and how well is the AI working, because we need to get to a point where we trust the output, it's validated, it's safe and it's secure. So that's the stage that we're at now. We're also getting a whole load of other great input from people about how to make the product even better. So some of that is this kind of feedback around how to make it more usable and more user-friendly to caseworkers, just to make it quicker and even easier for them to use it. Also, how to make it more accessible and more equitable to people over time. So that includes things like voice notes being a good way for people to add their contributions, different language formats as well, different file type formats. So there's a whole load of stuff that we're also starting to hear about and starting to explore, because we really see this as being an opportunity to kind of, I guess, make things more equitable for everybody involved in this process. So I think that sort of covers most of the things on this slide. Just double checking. I think that's all good. Next slide, Phil. So yeah, I hope that through kind of seeing this kind of like end-to-end process and walkthrough that Alice showed, it is kind of very much geared around enabling caseworkers to have extra help, have extra support, but not necessarily to take anything away from their kind of professional decision making around that process. I could talk forever about the data privacy and security first approaches that we've taken. I hope there's been a flavour given to you, but if you have more information that you'd like to hear about, either ask questions in the chat or visit our website, because we have put quite a lot of information on there as well. And then finally, in terms of engaging with the parent and carer community, we are really keen to get feedback throughout the testing and pilot phase with our local authorities, throughout the work and networks and connections that we have with the National Network of Parent Carer Forums, and through our kind of outreach like this one. So we're really keen to hear how you would like to be kept informed, and if there's other ways that you are interested in receiving this type of information as well, or how you would like to be able to shape it with us as well. So not necessarily just us giving you information, but you telling us about your ideas for how this could be improved as well. Thanks.
Thanks, Kaylin. We're now going to have some input from a parent perspective, and we're lucky enough today to have on the call Tina Emery, who was previous co-chair of the National Parent Care Forum. So, Tina, can I hand over to you?
Yes, of course. So, good afternoon. My name is Tina Emery. I hope you can hear me. And because I've had tech issues for morning for me, because I'm actually away. But I wanted to just give you a brief oversight of what it's like from a parent carer's perspective, and what we're trying to achieve with Invision and VITA. So my hope for VITA is actually that whilst a caseworker is going to be in charge of the data and feeding that into the plan, that actually this will cut the time that a caseworker will need to do that. And so what will happen, hopefully, is that they'll spend more time getting to know the families. So one of the things that I've found in the 10.5 years that I've been part of the Parent Carer Forum is that a caseworker or people who feed into the plan may only have met the child for 10, 15 minutes, half an hour, or a few times over a set period of time to write the information that feeds into the report. And they don't get to know the family. And it's a legal document that talks about a child and a young person. And very often, some people that feed it into the plan have never met them. And so that for me is a travesty. And I've worked in schools, and it's really important that we get to know the families. So my hope is that with VITA, this allows people that are writing about a young person and a child that actually has met them. And so then the plan becomes more quality assured, because they've met the family, they know the difficulties, they know where people, the direction of travel, so they know what the child and young person wants to achieve, what they want to do when they're older, where they need to be and how they're going to get there. And that for me is really, really important. So my hope is that VITA is going to be delivered using that. And I have to say, being on the advisory board for Invision for VITA, that is very much the discussions. It's really around the child, young person at the centre and their families, and being supported and making sure that the quality for the plan is actually when somebody has never met the child, gets the plan, reads the plan, and then meets the family, and there is that correlation. So they recognise the child and young person within that plan as soon as they meet them. So that is my aim of this project, and this is exactly what we're trying to feed through. The other thing is that obviously Invision is really good because they are doing events like these. This is not the first event that we've done, and we are always taking feedback. We are always listening to parent carers, children and people, and we are then feeding that through to the work that we're doing. So that's really, really important to Envision. I've looked at the Q&A chat. It's very high level questions, so which the Invision 360 team will be answering. But if there's anything else from a parental point of view that you're concerned about, please put in the QA chat and then we'll answer it as best as we can. Back over to you, Phil.
Thank you, Tina. Okay, so this now, it's really great as well to have the lens from a parental perspective, and also having Tina and working with other parent carer forums to give us that level of scrutiny we need from that angle and that perspective is hugely powerful and massively insightful to us. Okay, moving on, we're going to have an interactive session now where you get to share your feedback and you'll be able to see what the collective group are sharing as well. It's all anonymous, and I'm going to hand over to Alice for this part of the session. Okay, Alice.
Yeah. Resharing my screen. Can you see my workshop screen? Anyone give me the go ahead that they can see it?
Yes, I can see it.
Cool. So if everyone can please use this code. So if you search menti.com on your laptop, your phone, and then use this code to join. Lydia, is a way to see people are joining, or time how long we want to give to allow people to join?
Let me have a look, one moment, but
we can give it a couple of minutes.
yes, and then we'll get started.
To let you guys join. The code should stay at the top as well, so you should be able to join even after we move on from this page. The main idea here as well is obviously we're piloting VITA with LAs and we're getting feedback on usability, content quality from them, but there are definitely some places like where they get and will be uploading parent care reviews. So there are some questions which will help us as well, make sure that we're unblocking any barriers that they might find to get that content in here. So there's things about formats and things like that as well we'll ask you, but it's just great for us to sense check from your side as well how to make this really useful and possible for everyone so that LAs can use this to improve the quality. I will get started then. The code will remain there, so you'll be able to add if you have not already, join rather. 5 questions. You'll see this on screen. You should be able to respond and people's responses will start to appear on this screen. I'm going to give 2 minutes. So we'll do 10 minutes of this, so 2 minutes per question. I will put a timer on the screen. So starting from now, it should, if I press 2, my timer's not working. Lydia, would you mind timing 2 minutes, please?
Yeah, I will do that now.
Oh. There we go. I've got it. The timer's there.
Perfect.
So yeah, what to you guys makes a good quality EHCP? We want to make sure we get that feedback from you as well as from the LA's perspective. And you will have the chance as well. We'll share questions afterwards. So if you don't have time to say everything you want to say, you will have the opportunity to add any extra detail afterwards as well. Oh, it's a word cloud. 2 seconds. Okay, so the responding is off, but you will have the chance to add, if anyone didn't have the chance to submit something or you want to add something in a bit more detail, you will be able to afterwards. We'll share something around so you can do that. So next question. Timer going on. Yeah, there we go. So we've got 6 key areas here. If you can put those in the order you think is most important.
It's really great to see these come through. It's actually really powerful and insightful. Thanks everybody for engaging with this. It's super helpful.
Yeah, no, it's useful. I think from an LA perspective, they've said kind of themselves what they think is most important to you. But obviously for us to then ask ourselves rather than just depend on what they say is really important. Okay, the time is up for that one. As with the others, you will be able to respond and add something if you want to afterwards. Third of the 5 questions. This is scenario based. So if your child moved LA and the structure of an EHCP changed, what challenges do you perceive you would face? I believe this is an example or a response that's already come in. Timer going on. Oh.
Lots of responses here about different templates, different formats, paperwork, and so forth.
Yeah.
And that ability to translate or migrate all of the information accurately. It's really important. No, these are fantastic. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, guys. We're now moving on to the next question. I think the fourth one. Maybe people have already got access. Interesting. So what format would you prefer to submit information for an EHCP? Timer going on. And like I mentioned before, we're seeing obviously advice and things being uploaded into VITA, and where there are different formats, it's understanding from you guys if there was a more structured way to do it, in which way would you prefer it, to make sure that all of your views can make it into VITA and there are no issues with anything not making it in. I think in some cases handwritten stuff can be hard to read, so it would be if there's a way to kind of pick a way to do it, what is your preferred format? I'm going to do a bit of less time on this one. It shouldn't take as long, so I'll do another 20 seconds, and then we'll go on to the last question.
Not many takers for the PDF. I would not be in that camp either.
Yeah, right. So I'm going to move on. Sorry, Phil. We're conscious of time, so I'll move on from this one. Hopefully everyone's, or most people have had a chance to answer it. But yes, do let us know afterwards, and do give us any reasons and things like that when you want to, if you want to give any feedback after the webinar. Next question. So the last one, please respond to this statement in relation to your own child's EHCP. So specific provision is linked to each and every individual outcome. Do you strongly disagree, strongly agree, somewhere in the middle? Oh, I didn't put my timer on.
And this is from 1 to 5, so
Yeah.
2.8 is just leaning towards the agree.
The agree or the disagree? Is the disagree one, or?
Yeah, disagree is 1. Strongly disagree 1. Strongly agree 5. Disagree 2. Unsure, neither 3. Agree 4. Strongly agree 5.
Okay. Got 25 seconds left to respond. And this is where we really want to make sure that there's an action put in place for everything the child needs, but then taking your opinions as well on how much that needs to happen or not. Right, that's the end of the questions. I think that's the last one. Yes, thank you very much for inputting. If you did, that's really useful for us. And as I said, we will share something afterwards so you can add more detail and answer any of these after the webinar. I will hand back over to Phil.
Okay. Thank you, Alice. That concludes our delivery component to the session. We thank you for your patience and your engagement. It leaves us with 10 minutes at the end of the session. Combination of things for that 10 minutes. There are some questions and answers. I can see some more are coming in the Q&A, so I'll have a look at those now and we can answer those verbally on screen. Also, there will be a feedback link dropped in, and you can use the link to just give a little bit of feedback on today's session. We will be hosting more of these sessions, for example, in the future when we've got the pilot feedback and the results of the pilot and the difference it's made and the quality in terms of timeliness and so forth. So we will obviously be communicating that with you. As Lydia said from the outset with this, various information will be shared, the recording, the slide deck, the results from our Mentimeter, the parent guide. This will all be sent in an email with links to that for you. But you'll see in the webinar chat now, there is a survey link. That allows you to then just give a little bit of feedback on what you thought about today's session, but also will prompt some improvements for us about when we deliver again in the future. If we just have a quick look to see if there are any questions. So first one, do we have an idea of the cost to LAs when VITA is rolled out? That's something we're working with LAs within the pilot process. So we're looking at that. That's dependent on obviously does it do what it says in terms of time saving, quality. We have a rollout plan of we're looking to have this live and ready as a final product in May this year, May 2025. So there's a few months left of the pilot, but that cost hasn't been defined as of yet. Annual reviews, yeah, that's come up a few times. Currently, VITA is purely focused on new assessments, new EHCPs. However, as an organisation, the more we liaise with different forums, parent care forums, schools, settings, local authorities, we do know that the need to provide some software and solutions within the AR space, annual review meetings, amended plans is really, really needed. We want to get this right first, and we want the entire centre community to be really confident in VITA, and then we will absolutely be exploring other solutions, because we're aware, obviously, there's around 66 new EHCPs per year, but over 500,000 existing plans. So the annual review process is a huge demand. Just going through. So it's around time saving and financial challenges. And yeah, we're fully aware. We've worked in this sector now 5 years. You're absolutely right. The SEND sector is under huge pressures and challenge with regards finance, SEND overspends and deficits in terms of budgets, demand outstripping capacity, number of EHCPs increasing every year. This is part of obviously this is just one solution in a much wider piece where local authorities are working with their communities to try and find solutions. But we do feel this will provide a solution, and we really the aim is to improve not just quality, but also to improve things like, or increase things like co-production activity with families. Okay, I think that is all the questions in the chat. If there are any more questions, do drop it in. If not, if you do use the remaining time to have a look at our survey in the web chat, it'd be really great to get your feedback. And again, yeah, on behalf of Invision360, I'd like to thank all of you guys for attending, and all of this parent carer community for the constant feedback we're getting. And also for Tina for joining our call today to give us that parent carer lens as well as part of the webinar. And, you know, she's done some fantastic work with the National Parent Carer Forum. So to have that input is hugely beneficial for us. Okay. Okay. Oh, interesting. I can see there at the bottom that some local authorities have had a look at other solutions and have had some bumps and challenges. So yeah, hopefully today's been food for thought, and certainly will inspire you guys maybe to have a look at our website, have a look at the Parent Carer Guide, but also to have a look at what's further out there regarding AI within the SEND sector, because these type of solutions are going to be coming increasingly, and the key is to get it right. And I think one of the key messages we consistently share is that we're a SEND organisation first, and with SEND expertise running through the company, and we then build software rather than the other way around, in terms of we're a software company that has then looked and seen an opportunity within the SEND world. There's a number of us within the organisation that have come from that SEND background and that lived experience.